Hello and welcome to this week's review of the latest episode of My Hero Academia. You know the rules and so do I. Leave a comment down below to let me know what you thought about this week's episode. Whilst you're there, be sure to like, favourite, subscribe, click the bell and do all the YouTuber stuff that YouTube wants you to do, because YouTube is an increasingly scary place for small content creators. Support your local small content creator today, it will do them a power of good. Now on to the review. And so we start this review as we always do by starting out with the positives, and I have to say that I really do enjoy the fact we are continuing to see the aftermath and the destruction of society that has been brought on by previous events, which, as always, whenever I say this kind of thing, it kind of makes me sound a little like a psychopath, but hey, that's the best way as I can articulate it. It has always been teased to me over the past few weeks and months that we were going to see the aftermath stuff, we were going to see where all this was going in a more broader world-building sense, and I am happy that we're actually seeing it properly being delivered, and it being delivered in a practical and measured way. When I heard about all this kind of stuff being a factor in this season, I had worried that it was either all going to be done in an episode or two, and that was going to be it, or it was just going to be something that was going to flow in and out whenever the plot needed it to, and it to be something that was just largely not all that important, just a side thought, just something that was only there for plot convenience and not much else. And I'm happy to say that isn't the case, as it has held an active presence throughout everything that we've seen thus far. We can just see it with almost every single scene that isn't centered around Deku and our main cast. We're seeing the entirety of Japan becoming increasingly more paranoid about just about every single person with a quirk at the moment, which is kind of remarkable given 80% of the world's population have it, but hey, I think at this point we are just seeing just how paranoid people are getting. Everyone's blaming everyone for everything right now, and thanks to all those fun little gadgets that I think that the Meta Liberation Army is responsible for, there's a lot of self-proclaimed vigilantes now doing it to try and save the day, though making it worse for everybody. You could just see how much this all is decaying just by the scenery in the background. Just the sheer number of buildings that are looking increasingly unkept and damaged and run down as this whole arc has continued on. We're seeing the gradual decay of the very fabric of society itself, not just within the people but within the buildings themselves. Whilst not all of them are in ruins, you can see in the background just how things are slowly falling apart and breaking away. It'd be an interesting thing to do a comparison shot between how buildings in the background look towards the start of My Hero Academia and how they kind of look now. It's a neat little bit of visual storytelling which I don't think is going to get noticed by a lot of people, but hey, now you've noticed it, now you can drop it into your next greatest dinner conversation when you're talking about this show. What I have to say is I did enjoy learning a little bit more about the two other One for All users. It was neat, though I will admit it wasn't quite as enlightening as the stuff we've had previously. Whilst I'm still in two minds as to how well or not that all that stuff was delivered, I have to say that that stuff was far more insightful and a lot more definitive as to what we were learning. This week we didn't quite get anything quite as extensive, but it was at least neat for what it was. Of course, I think the big headline thing that a lot of people are going to be talking about, for various different reasons, is our new villain, Lady Nagant. I think her name is supposed to be a gun reference, because it kind of rings a bell to me. I think I've seen it in one video game or another. I will admit I know nothing about firearms. I know less about firearms than I do about the Japanese language, so if it's a reference to something in particular, by all means let me know in the comment section down below. I think that she's a very well designed character. She cuts a very imposing figure, one that looks good in silhouette and there's an imposing presence about her. She has an interesting power set, that is to be certain, and is probably one of the most unique that Midoriya has had to face thus far. Just about every single major villain that he's ever faced has been either a close or medium range fighter. She's a long range one, and hell, given her training that we get an idea of in flashbacks and things that have been discussed, even without her quirk, she'd still be a formidable foe. And I am interested to learn a lot more about her and why specifically she became a villain, which I am certain that we get. We'll be honest here, we do know the format of this show quite well after 6 or 7 series at this point, so we know that at some point over the next few episodes, possibly into next season, we probably will get more of an origin story episode for her, which I'm looking forward to do, because again, I really want to understand her justification for being a villain, more about this incident that made her become so. We get a hint of it. She killed an ally of hers, seemingly for ideological reasons, and it's something that All for One uses as justification for her joining his side, though All For One is one of those characters where if I was in that world, I'd take a lot of what he's saying with a pinch of salt, because yeah, when he's saying that he's doing it to liberate people, and when he's doing it because all those mean heroes, they bullied Overhaul, there would be a part of me that would still kind of question it ever so slightly. Maybe not to his face, what little of his face still remains, but even still, there will be a part of the back of my mind that's just thinking, well, sure thing, I'll certainly think about that. I'll get back to you. My people will talk to your people, so on and so forth. But then, when that's said, I don't think All For One is the kind of person you can really leave waiting on these kind of things, so maybe she made the right choice in the end. Again, I am interested to see exactly how they justify her tilt into villainy, because there is a part of me that is worried that it could get a little silly, because when we've had similar other characters make a heel turn, as she seemingly has done, and to throw their lot in with the villains, it has kind of felt a bit tenuous. You know, the whole thing with Mr. Compressing as to why he became a villain. He's doing it in the name of goodness and to make a better world, but it doesn't really feel like it properly squares given the people in it working with, but that's a discussion for a whole other time. Something I really did enjoy throughout this episode was this sense of atmosphere that we got from everything. Everything just looks so miserable, everything looks so tense, everything feels as though we are still on the brink of just full-on out-and-out carnage and chaos. I wish that things like this probably could have gone a little bit longer, because as much as I enjoyed the other stuff with the learning more about the past users of One For All, there is a part of me that does wish we'd got a little bit more just being able to absorb this atmosphere, just the moody, insidious darkness of it all, just this feeling of just how depressing things have become for this world. And I will say here that as depressing as all of it does feel, it does not leave me feeling depressed. It gives an atmosphere that gives a sense of tone as to just how much this world has changed. Almost every single episode of My Hero Academia that we've seen thus far, for the most part, has been fairly bright and pleasant weather. This is the first time we've seen things truly get miserable, because we are now truly in the part of the story where things get miserable. And my final positive that I will say, and I will admit this is going to sound like damning with faint praise, but I enjoyed just how mundane this episode felt. Which again is damning with faint praise, but let me explain. One of the things I've mentioned time and again for the past season, if not couple seasons, is the fact that Midoriya hasn't really felt as much as a focus within the story as I really think he should have been. For the most part, for extended periods, he's felt like a side character, more like a sidekick to the main event, more so than he's ever felt like the main event itself. So this episode, the previous one, and I'm presuming the next few episodes, are really welcome, because it feels like for the first time in maybe a couple seasons, we are genuinely now seeing Midoriya. Yeah, sure, we've seen him, but we've never seen him. We've never really seen him as a human being or as a character. But now we are, and we're now seeing exactly how much he's grown and developed over the past few months of his life. And I'm enjoying it. I genuinely am. Yes, it ultimately boils down to our hero doing heroic things, but I'll accept that, because, again, he's felt like a secondary character in his own life story. Now we get on to the negatives, and there aren't that many. If I'm going to be honest, once again, there's only one real negative here, and that draws back to the whole situation with the two, up until this moment, unknown users of One For All. Again, whilst I did enjoy that sequence for the most part, I do feel as though more could have been done with it. As to what that would have been, I really don't know, because what we ultimately end up learning and what we ultimately end up seeing with them, it just feels a little bit impudent in a way, for want of a better word. I'm sure that we will learn a lot more about them in the future, and we'll get a clearer understanding of them in the future, but the way that it's structured in this episode just feels very weird for me. The pair of them are objecting to Midoriya, to helping Midoriya, because Midoriya wants to try and save Tomura. He wants to at least make that attempt. Those two other guys, they don't want that to happen, and that's their justification for it. Okay, fine. I understand that. Sets up for an interesting little dynamic. But almost as soon as they say that, the first user of One For All just says, "Oh, you saved me, and thanks to you guys, this whole thing got kicked off. Oh yeah, you're right. Changed our minds, now we're going to help you." like, it feels like a bit of a moral quandary, a bit of a back and forth that didn't really go too far back or forth. I would have liked to have seen it being developed a lot more, because I will be honest with you, it didn't really go all that way. Again, I think that it will be. Like with many things in this episode, I think it's going to be developed a lot more. With that said, let's get into the overview while I don't lose that train of thought. I think this episode is great for what it is, though I will admit that a lot of the things that we see in this episode are things that are setting up for stuff that will end up coming in the remainder of this season, for the next 6 or so weeks that we have it for, as well as setting stuff up for next season. So on the one hand, whilst it is unfortunate that we're not learning as much as we have done over previous episodes, I do understand as to why that is the case. We will no doubt learn a lot more about our new villain, we'll learn a lot more about her backstory and what motivates her, and I've just remembered I didn't mention Overhaul. Yeah, Overhaul's in this episode, and it's become just this sad, tragic shell of a man. Like, I'm interested to see where exactly they go with this, because there's a part of me that I'm going to be honest, I don't know where they can go with this, because either they fix him and he becomes a villain again, which, I'll be honest, I'm not really looking forward to, because as a walk-on cameo appearance, I think that it works. I'm not really in a mood to just have a boss rush of all Midoriya's past villain encounters happening for the remainder of this show, because I think that's a little bit too self-indulgent even for my liking, and I say this as someone who really did enjoy just how self-indulgent the joint training stuff last season could get. So I'm not looking forward to the idea of him actually coming back as a villain, but at the same time, alternatively, what is there? Well, him trying to get closure with his adoptive father, which would be interesting, but there's a part of me that worries that it just might feel a little bit out of place. I mean, sure, it gives us further information with which to further the theme about the villains being more dimensional than a lot of people in the Hero Society give them credit for. But on the other hand, there is a part of me that worries that with stuff like this, you're always at the risk of effectively laundering the reputation of our villains and whitewashing a lot of the nasty things they did because they had a sad backstory, which itself is a debate for another time. But to actually get back to the matter on hand, the actual overview itself, yeah, I did enjoy this week's episode, and as I say, it is regrettable that a lot of things haven't really been developed all that well, but again, you understand why that is the case, because we've got a lot of episodes left of this season. We've got another 5 episodes left of it, so yeah, this gives us plenty enough time to explore those characters. There might be another couple OVAs at the end of this season, which is further going to develop a few things. There's probably other stuff that's going to come along the pipeline which will do it even more so, and of course, next season we'll probably pick up on a lot of these plot threads. It will be interested to see actually how all this kind of stuff ends up developing going forward. What we'll end up seeing with all that. With all that said and done, now let's get into Comment Corner! Okay, so the comment from last week's episode comes from Big X1, who says, Deku's new design looked great. I like that we got to see more of him this week, and I can see why many people were looking forward to this arc. I have to say thank you for the comment, and of course thank you to everyone who's left comments on previous videos over the past couple of weeks or so. I've not included them this week because those are comments for videos that are quite a fair bit in the past at the moment, and it felt like it would have been a bit too much to go back and do them. But then, given just how much YouTube seemed to punish me for doing a video under 15 minutes, upon reflection, I probably should have written those into the script, but, you know, we'll bear that in mind for future reference. Wow, YouTube did not like me doing a video shorter than 15 minutes the other week. Wow! Anyway, on to the comment itself. Thank you for the comment, and I do have to say that I am happy that we're actually seeing more of Midoriya, which will always feel like a weird thing for me to say, because he is the main character. He should be the focus, but for the most part, My Hero Academia for the past couple seasons or so has felt more like an ensemble show, more so than it has felt like the story of Midoriya. But again, I do like what we're seeing, and I do like the fact that we're just seeing how much he's grown and developed, and how mature and sensible and rational he's being about all of this. It is weirdly refreshing to have a hero of a superhero fiction who is just as rational as all of this. Even though he's a teenager, he's not doing stupid, selfish, or short-sighted things. He understands everything that he needs to do. Like I said last week, he has an understanding of how much power he needs to commit to any given thing, and I'm really happy with that. I really like that, and I, again, like Big X1 has said in their comment, I can see why so many people were looking forward to this particular arc, because it's changed my view of Midoriya quite a bit, and I have a respect for him that I didn't quite have before. But anyway, that is just my thoughts. Let me know what you thought about this week's episode in the comment section down below, and you will be read out in next week's show. Whilst you're there, be sure to like, favourite, subscribe, click the bell, and do all the YouTube stuff that YouTube wants you to do, because YouTube is a decreasing scary place for small content creators. Support your local small content creator today. It will do them a pair of good. Now, with all that said and done from me, time to get on to the editing, so see you next time. Goodbye! Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, favourite, subscribe, click the bell, and do all the YouTubey stuff that YouTube wants you to do. Go on, it'll do me a power of good. Until next time, my friends, goodbye!